Welcome back to LinkQ Plus, everyone. On this channel, I'm 100%ing Breath of the Wild by a bit every day until Tears of the Kingdom comes out, which is today in 99 days. We have now officially broken the 100-day barrier, and we are counting down the last 100 days until release. Expecting a direct announcement any day from today. Obviously, you're going to hear about that here, but I mean, since most of you watching this channel are obsessed with the game anyway, you probably already know it before I can upload. That being said, I wanted to talk about something that's not exclusively Tears of the Kingdom related today, but still is in a way. Recently, I've been getting back into Elden Ring. It's a game I speedran at the beginning of 2022 and put like 500 plus hours into in a short-ish time. The game is expected to get a DLC soon, which in From Software fashion usually adds a bunch of content and sometimes even the best content that the game has to offer, which is why me and a lot of other people are really excited about it. And because I'm excited about Tears of the Kingdom, but also excited about the Elden Ring DLC, I thought it was a good time today to talk about what I like so much about Elden Ring and what I think Tears of the Kingdom could learn from the game, could add to their games, what I really liked about Elden Ring. Now, Breath of the Wild is my favorite game of all time because of how much it has done for me in a way. I met so many cool people because of the game. I love speedrunning the game. And I also really like the game casually. But my favorite like casual experience, my favorite game to play casually was Elden Ring. I was dreaming about the game. I was playing the game for like legitimately 16 hours or something a day sometimes. I could not stop playing the game. I was obsessed with it. And obviously that's why I also started speedrunning the game right after. I also just realized that I need fire arrows, which there is a bunch of fire arrow chests in this area. Maybe we can find one, so I don't have to leave from here. But yeah, anyway, Breath of the Wild is my favorite game, so I think these comparisons make a lot of sense. Number one thing that I want to talk about, and this is something that I recently realized, and I almost passed out, is when I realized that when people played Breath of the Wild when it came out, and they were like young teens, let's say 12-year-olds, they are gonna be 18 when Tears of the Kingdom comes out. Obviously, this is granted they played the game on release. I know a lot of people got into Breath of the Wild a little bit later, but I think the majority of people played the game between 2017 and 2020, I would say. So a lot of the audience has grown up in a literal sense. And I think Tears of the Kingdom obviously targets people that have already played Breath of the Wild before. That's why I think difficulty, which is something that not only Elden Ring, but the entire Souls series is kind of known for, could be ramped up quite drastically in Tears of the Kingdom. We've already talked about the rating for the game, which seems to be, I think it was E for everyone, was it? Or was it T for teen? I think it was E. Was it rated E? Wait. Now I need to fact check my own videos to make sure that I'm not talking nonsense. That being said, there it is again. I keep saying that being said. I need to stop. I don't necessarily expect the game to be much more difficult, but I think difficulty apparently is rated E. I think difficulty can add something to the game, especially when it comes to longevity and the urge to master the game. I think what makes Elden Ring and even Souls games live for such a long time is that people get obsessed over them because they're so difficult and try to push it even further beyond with the craziest challenge runs ever. Obviously, Breath of the Wild also has a bunch of challenge runs that people like doing, me included, but I think that's even more noticeable in games like Dark Souls and Elden Ring. I really hope, in a way, that the overall content is more difficult than in Breath of the Wild, and in a healthy way. I talked about in the past how I don't like how Master Mode sometimes isn't even more difficult, it's just more like annoying. And that's something I hope doesn't happen. Another thing, oh, there's this Korok there. I am just randomly searching for these fire arrows. If I don't find them soon, I'm just gonna teleport to Gerudo Town and buy them. I know there's a chest here somewhere in the canyon, but I cannot find it. So I might just... I'm gonna go over there, and if I don't find the fire arrows, I'll teleport back. The entire reason I'm getting them is because one of the Korok seeds I'm trying to get is in an ice block. So that's pretty much it with difficulty. I think Master Mode wasn't a good way to do it. It mostly made the game more annoying in many sections and not necessarily more difficult. I think this is a pretty high chance that these are the fire arrows, but we'll see. Especially in something like the Trial of the Swords. I said in the past before that I really don't think the game has been properly play-tested in Master Mode. Some people agree with me, some people don't. What is it with these purple rupees? Surely this would be the fire arrows. To be fair, I am going too fast anyway with my progression to 100%, so having an episode like this is not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, looks like I'll just be teleporting. I'm pretty sure I'm like right next to them, probably. Like, I don't want to warp because I know there's 2 different fire arrow chests here because the speedrun used to pick them up. Maybe it's this one. Ah, no, I think these are normal arrows. Like, I remember a speedrun route here used to get these fire arrows. But I'm not sure where they are. Oh my god, yeah, see, those are the normal arrows. Now I'm kind of committed to them. I know there's one more chest here, come on. Maybe not. Difficulty was the first thing I wanted to talk about. Is this an Korok? No, no, this has to be the fire arrows. I believe this right here is the fire arrow chest. Oh my god, I'm gonna lose my mind. Obviously, I'm joking. This right, actually, now that I'm realizing how many free chests there are here, that's kind of broken. And one of them is a fire arrow chest. I know it. It's this one. It's this one. Oh my god, I'm gonna lose my mind. This episode is turning into a giant meme where Limcube tries to find fire arrows. Played for 6,000 hours. Omega lol. Oh my god. I'm free. Anyway, we got the fire arrows. Speaking of Omega lol, which is a Twitch emote, when you see this video, I'm probably going to be live right after on Twitch TV doing another old quest run, so I'm going to put another link in the description. Let's move on though and talk about the next topic, what I think Zelda can learn from Elden Ring, and that's going to be dungeons. Now, I'm not talking about the dungeons that everyone is already asking for, the classic Zelda dungeons. I'm talking about dungeons in Elden Ring. And the way these small dungeons worked is essentially they're small caves in the world, and they're probably more like the equivalent of shrines. Usually the dungeons in Elden Ring would have some sort of puzzle to solve, some sort of enemies to beat, and then a small boss at the end, which also would give you a reward. I personally loved that system. It ties into something I'm going to be talking about later. Something that people didn't like is that sometimes the rewards that you would get from these dungeons wouldn't necessarily improve your character, because the way Elden Ring works, you can only use certain items depending on how you build your character. So sometimes you would do a dungeon, you would struggle with it, and then get an item you don't want, but they would also still already reward you with something called runes, which I guess the closest in Breath of the Wild to the Spirit Orbs. It's basically a currency that you can use in Elden Ring to level up and make your character stronger. So it would never truly feel like you're wasting your time with one of these dungeons, and I think that would be a great replacement for shrines in Tears of the Kingdom. Having these like caves instead, having them themed, maybe having some sort of boss at the end of it, and definitely giving meaningful, unique rewards is I think the #1 thing that I would be asking for. What I really liked about Elden Ring. It feels in this game even worse to do a shrine that you work really hard for, and then you get a weapon that you don't like, a gemstone that isn't worth much, or just some random rupees. It didn't feel as good as completing dungeons in, let's say, Elden Ring, because you would actually get a meaningful reward. And also additional power in the form of runes. So replacing shrines with something like the Elden Ring dungeons, I think, would be really beneficial. I think some of the Elden Ring dungeons would also eventually get kind of boring. And I hope that in the Elden Ring DLC, they will improve on them by basically making these dungeons a little bit more rare, because there were a bunch of them, and instead focusing more on their quality. And I think Tears of the Kingdom could do really well with a similar approach. How making basically shrines or dungeons less common and focusing more on their quality, kind of like the DLC shrines in Breath of the Wild's DLC. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is Overworld encounters. The Overworld encounters in Breath of the Wild are basically limited to Moldugas, Lynels, Taluses, and Hinox. Hinoxes, I guess Stalnox is technically like the right, and like there's different Taluses, and they get quite repetitive. I think what Elden Ring did is pretty cool. They made some unique overworld encounters, Like in the first area of the game, there's this tree sentinel guy who does appear a little bit more later on in different like forms, but there's like 4 of them instead of like 40 Taluses and 40 Hinoxes. There is this encounter where you go over a lake and then a giant dragon suddenly crashes there, making for a unique boss encounter. Basically having difficult, unique enemies spread over the world instead of having like 40 Taluses and Hinoxes to fill the world would be an improvement in my opinion. We've already seen that Taluses will return, by the way, now that I think about it, in Tears of the Kingdom. Actually something I kind of just forgot. But we've seen literal monster camps on top of Taluses. If that's not a reoccurring thing, there's like 80 of them. That could be a unique, cool overworld boss encounter, so maybe that's something that they will actually be doing. Last but not least, I want to talk about something I already touched on when it comes to the items that you get in Elden Ring. Let it be weapons, specific talismans, or armor. Is what I really loved about Elden Ring is its build variety. Nothing adds more replayability to the Souls series, and then specifically Elden Ring, than build variety. What does that mean? You can play Elden Ring in different ways and build your character in different ways. So to make the comparison to Breath of the Wild, yes, you can focus on using spears or one-hand weapons or two-hand weapons, and you could technically force yourself to say, in this playthrough, I'm gonna be a spear user. I'm gonna be using spear for combats and not as much bows. In this playthrough, I'm gonna be an archer, and I'm gonna focus on shooting people. That's my entire roleplay. In this playthrough, I'm gonna be like this juggernaut. I'm gonna get a bunch of health and only use two-hand weapons, and that could change your experience quite drastically. That's maybe actually a cool idea for someone that wants to replay the game, to add a little bit of role-playing on top of it. Now, in Elden Ring, this sort of challenge is basically enforced by having to choose how you want to build your character. If you want to make a strong two-hand weapon-wielding guy, you would level a lot of strength and would be restricted to those sort of weapons. If you want to be a magician, you would level other stats instead. If you want to be an archer, which is really bad in Elden Ring for the most part, you would level other stats instead and focus on other weapons. You would invest into other weapons, and that makes every playthrough I've done of Elden Ring extremely unique, and I think something that Tears of the Kingdom could really benefit from, having some sort of additional role-playing slash character building feature that would make subsequent playthroughs feel like they're different. I honestly don't really see them doing it, because at the end of the day, you don't make your own character in this game, and you also don't make your own character in Tears of the Kingdom. You are playing as Link, whereas in Elden Ring you make your own character. So it makes more sense to have that freedom to essentially make them use specific weapons that you want them to use, etc. Also, I feel like I've strayed so far off track. Yeah, I have. That I got completely lost. This Korok seed that I'm trying to find is always one of my least favorites, even in 100% speedruns. It's like somewhere randomly on the cliffside. And when I get this, I'm going to be calling it, because those were the main topics I wanted to talk about today. I think build variety is the least likely to really be present in some sort, in some form in Tears of the Kingdom, even though it would personally be probably my favorite change to the game's mechanics, just because of how much replayability and replay value that specific change would add, in my opinion. Let me know your thoughts as well, if you think these changes would actually ruin Tears of the Kingdom, or if they would actually improve them in your opinion too, or if you have other ideas. They don't even have to be specifically Elden Ring related. I'm sure some of you haven't even played that game, even though I highly recommend you do, even if you're a little bit intimidated by the potential difficulty of the game. But I think especially the way that Elden Ring handled dungeons could be a great replacement for Breath of the Wild's shrines in the sequel, and I would love to see that. Now, will I find this Korok seed to end off the episode? I'm not sure. Once again, the thing that makes this Korok seed so hard is that it is somewhere here on the side of the cliff. It is a Korok magnesis puzzle. But because of the way these walls look, it can be incredibly difficult to find. And there's no, if I remember correctly, there's no real indicator on the map either where it is. Another thing that I always get baited by is that I'm never sure if it's on this level of the cliff or down here. I might have already fallen too low to actually be in reach of it. Now, because I already spent this episode looking for fire arrows for about 5 minutes, I might as well end it off by looking for this specific Korok seed and make it my mission that I at least find it, so that it's out of the way. We are getting pretty close right now, by the way, to 60% though. That is quite exciting. Last 40% will be a little bit slower, mainly because I am gonna have to fill in the blanks at times. The way I did this playthrough is that essentially sometimes I focused mostly on getting random Korok seeds, whereas now I'm following the actual 100% speedrun route to find them. Oh, I happened to actually climb up the right place, so that's pretty good. I was on the lower level, so I couldn't actually find the puzzle there, but it is in a really random place. I wonder how many people stumbled upon this casually. I guess you're actually more likely to stumble upon this casually if you're just flying around than seeking it out because of how it's in such a random position. But yeah, let me just go over to this big Korok circle here. This is where I'm going to be ending it for today, and then follow along the 100% route further. I will say that, for example, normally the 100% route would now go into this canyon and collect Korok seeds like this one, and these ones, which I have already obtained. Apparently I'm missing a balloon Korok seed over here, and then I would technically go here and ride the big horse over to these guys here and then make it to the lake. So that's basically like the rough outline. Once we'll make it to the lake, we wait, how does that route usually go? You go like here, then you usually get to the tower, make your way through Farron. That's like the overall idea. Make your way through Farron and these midlands, and then eventually into Lurline areas. That's where we are headed next. That being said, I said it again, 16 minutes, actually 17 minutes today. I've been ranting quite a lot, so I'm going to end it here. Might be live on Twitch right now when you see this video. Tears of the Kingdom will be out in 99 days, and tomorrow I'll see you again. Thank you for watching. Peace.